The new year getting ready to crank up and the salary cap expected to be lower because of the COVID-19 revenue impacts. It's supposed to be a bloodbath for this first part of the offseason, as you see a lot of veterans either getting cut or taking huge pay cuts or traded. But the Carolina Panthers, they've already made some cuts and made some cap space. A lot of people suspected it was because they wanted to make a move for Deshaun Watson. But in my opinion, they need to make these type of cuts to be competitive when it comes to free agency anyway. So in this video, we're going to talk about, will there be any more surprise cuts on the horizon for the Carolina Panthers? Or will there be any other surprise re-signings of any of the free agents that they lost this past offseason that they may have rights to as a restricted free agent or under restricted free agent? So let's go ahead and get into it. But before we do that, let me introduce myself. My name is Aaron Duncan here with the Necessary Bluntness Sports Talk. And I start off every video by saying, what up, dude? Here on the Necessary Bluntness Sports Talk, we talk about the NFL, but in particular, show a little extra love to the Carolina Panthers. So if you are a Panthers fan or NFL fan and you just like good videos and content from your boy, make sure you guys hit the subscribe button below and the bell icon, because the bell icon is going to give you a notification every time I drop a video, because sometimes YouTube doesn't always send you a notification. So the only way to guarantee that and you don't miss a video is to hit the bell icon. But also, give this video a thumbs up because it really helps out in the algorithm. It doesn't really cost a thing. If you want to show a little extra love and support to the channel, you can check down in the description below for a link to buy me a beer. You know, I put out this Panthers content and I love engaging with you guys. So any support you guys give to me, I really appreciate it, and it's much love, and I'll even give you a shout out in the next video. So we're going to start with the re-signings, and the first one on my list is F.A. Obada. So we all know F.A. Obada is the feel-good story. The guy that's from overseas has only been playing football since the age of 22, and he's made it to the NFL in their little bridge program, and he's been a part of the Carolina Panthers. He actually got cut at the beginning of last offseason, but he got brought back, and quiet as kept, was very effective in the pass rush, being the second most sacks on the team behind Brian Burns with 5.5 sacks from F.A. Obada. He's made the transition from defensive end to defensive tackle to 3 technique, and he seems to have found a good spot at Phil's nose team, and he seems to really just be stepping into his football prime and realizing his potential. He added some pounds, but him still being that defensive end background, he has the quickness to win in pass rush scenarios inside. So I'll be anxious to see how much better he can get if he's possibly a starter next year since KK Short is gone, or even get more time in the rotation. With there still being some untapped potential of F.A. Obada, I think it's worth bringing him back for another 1 or 2 years just to see what he can do, because you've put so much time in him, even if it hasn't been between Matt Rhule and David Tepper, but you've seen this guy progress. You would hate to go to a new team and let him go out there and then them just reaping all the benefits of all the hard work that you did developing F.A. as a talent. So I think they should definitely re-sign F.A. So the next potential re-signing that could be out there is Russell Okung. And before you guys come and bite my head off and yelling at me about how he barely played any snaps and he got all this money for nothing, the purpose of the Russell Okung move last offseason was not to get a left tackle because we needed one so bad, but it was because to unload the Trey Turner contract. Trey Turner was getting paid a lot of money, but it wasn't living up to that production. Yes, he was a Pro Bowl offensive lineman, but ever since he signed that deal, his production pretty much tailed off. For them to be able to unload that contract to a team and get a contract of Russell Okung, who only had 1 year left, it gave them the flexibility to be where they are right now. And my reasoning for considering bringing Russell Okung back is because if you're going to have to move up in the draft or make and trade some assets for Deshaun Watson, you're not going to be able to have as many assets that you need to dedicate towards the offensive line. So you may need to have some kind of veteran presence at left tackle to get you by until the next year and kick that can down the road. We can't really trust Greg Little to play left tackle. And with them signing Trent Scott to a 1 year deal, you have some depth. But being able to go after Okung may be the solid piece because he's coming off of injury. He may not have as much leverage when it comes to getting paid as normal. Yes, when he had been healthy, he had been a quality offensive lineman, but this has been back-to-back seasons that he hasn't played many games. So his value in the free agency may not be as high, and it may be just affordable enough for the Carolina Panthers to bring him back if they feel he can be healthy. Now, I'm not saying pay him a long-term deal because this guy's getting up there in age, but it may be competitive out there. But after a while, if he sees the grass may not be greener in free agency, he may be willing to come back to the Carolina Panthers for a cheaper deal. The next re-signing that the Panthers probably need to make is Alex Armour, the fullback. Now, this is not even a hot take because he's a fullback. Who's talking about fullbacks these days in the NFL when offenses are spread out and stuff like that? But Alex Armour was drafted originally as a former defensive end and linebacker out of college. He's converted to fullback, and that toughness and hard-nosed play that he played playing defense in college, has really converted over to being a fullback. Now, it's hard to quantify the value of a fullback. However, when he gets the ball, he pretty much gets the job done when they want him to get a yard or two or a touchdown or so. But the way to really look at it is he's been the lead blocker for Christian McCaffrey in some of his historic seasons. Not to mention, he helped get Mike Davis to 1,000 all-purpose yards. So you can just say, oh, it was all Christian McCaffrey that did it. But when you see the production from another running back that Alex Armah is blocking for, then the light bulb starting to go off and you realize the true value of Alex Armah. So his ability to be that lead blocker for guys like that, and especially with Christian McCaffrey coming back and them having that chemistry, Alex Armah definitely needs to come back on probably a 2-year deal, maybe a 1-year deal, who knows. But I think the fact that he's been groomed by the Carolina Panthers and he's been pretty effective, and the fact that there's not that much talent out there to replace him, you got to bring Alex Armah back. And the last re-signing that I have on my list is Mike Davis. Now, Mike Davis had a breakout season and extended replacement time for Christian McCaffrey, going over 1,000 all-purpose yards, and we all know about this. We all know running backs are very expendable, so he may not get a chance to go and be the man anywhere. He may just go up and ended up being another rotation. So sometimes, being that he went to South Carolina and is from Atlanta, Georgia, being close to home kind of can allow you to get a hometown discount. He may want to stay with the team and come back on the cheap deal. And he's great insurance for Christian McCaffrey. As we've seen, he can be effective enough in replacement and possibly take some pressure off of Christian as a power runner, where Christian is more of a finesse guy. Like I said, he may be able to get decent money on the open market, but the fact that he's played for San Francisco, Seattle, Chicago, and now Carolina, he may be tired of moving around and may want to hang around here. So hopefully that helps, and we're able to get a deal done to bring Mike Davis back for at least another year or two. But let's talk about some additional surprise cuts that could come down the pipeline. Just a few, because I've already discussed what the Panthers need to do this offseason to free up cap space, and shout out to Scott Fitterer. He's done most of those moves already when he made those cuts a couple weeks ago. However, there's 2 more potential cuts on this roster that could be had that maybe frees up some cap space and also gives some other guys some potential opportunities. The first one is safety Juston Burris. Now, we just brought Juston Burris in last offseason. However, this year, he got hurt a little bit. And if you look at his contract, the Panthers could save about $3.8 million from getting rid of him and only have $1 million in dead money. He may not be the worst guy in the world to get rid of. However, when you see those cap savings in a year where the COVID-19 has limited the cap space, every penny counts. So getting rid of a guy like that and allowing a guy like Sam Franklin, who had limited playing time when replacing Juston Burris last season when he was hurt, Sam Franklin was able to be very active and showed that he showed some toughness out there and showed that maybe he has potential to be our starter from the future. So maybe they get rid of Burris and give Sam Franklin a chance for cheap. Maybe they get rid of Burris and bring in another vet for cheaper than that and just round out the secondary that way. Who knows? Or they could just go in the draft and make another move there. So, but I think that potential savings of $3.8 million is enough for Juston Burris to probably be cut from this team. Last but not least, the cutting that probably is going to happen is Ian Thomas, the tight end. Now, here the potential cap savings are only about $2 million, but there will be no dead money on the books. We know the lack of production that came from the tight end position this past season with Ian Thomas and Chris Manhurst pretty much doing nothing, even though we had 4 players that went over 1,000 all-purpose yards on this offense. There just seemed to be no room for the tight end. Some people just think it's Joe Brady's fault. I happen to think that he can use a tight end if he wants to in his offense because he has that Saints background. It's just Ian Thomas has not lived up to the hype and potential. Now, we expected him to kind of be the Greg Olsen heir apparent when he was drafted and expected him to get groomed. But obviously those injuries to Greg Olsen and then Greg Olsen being released kind of hindered that development and the ability for them to work together and ease Ian Thomas into the lineup. Ian Thomas really got pushed into playing time before I thought he was even ready because he was very raw as an athlete coming out of Indiana in college, but he just never lived that to the potential that we thought he may do that. Now, there's no guarantee this may happen, but if the Panthers end up going in the draft for a tight end who you can find hidden gems in the 3rd or 4th round, taking chances on, they may be able to find Ian Thomas's replacement somewhere and get rid of him and bring in somebody on a cheaper deal that gives them a little bit more flexibility because he's on a rookie deal. So don't be surprised if the Panthers make a move in the draft and find a tight end and Ian Thomas is on the way out a little bit later this offseason. But without further ado, you guys let me know down below in the comments if you think anybody else could be potentially cut or potentially re-signed that a lot of people are sleeping on. And who did I forget off my list? Let me know down below in the comments. But without further ado, I'm Aaron Duncan signing off. I'll see you next time. Peace.